Okay, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining today. I've been holding these monthly webinars to provide more detailed information, more accurate information, because I've been as I do these consultations almost every day, I'm noticing there's just a lot of misinformation out there. And so anyway, I've been holding these monthlies as well as lives. And I hopefully these have been helpful if you are considering the EB-1A visa. Okay, let's move to the next slide. What you will learn today, you will learn information about each of the 10 criteria required for the EB-1A visa. I will provide additional insight on each one. And then my hope is after the webinar, you will have a much clearer idea if you qualify for the visa. I will be taking Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please limit your questions to the end. And unfortunately, I cannot answer any case-specific questions. I can just answer general questions. And then finally, I have to put out the disclaimer that this presentation does not constitute legal advice, and we cannot guarantee any outcomes. Okay. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let me introduce myself. My name is Priya ALAGARI. I am the founder of the ALAGARI Immigration Law Firm. We are a boutique law firm, meaning we're highly specialized. We are high touch, I would say. We only focus on a particular area. We're kind of a niche within a niche within a niche. So immigration law, employment-based, EB-1A, NIW, and I spend a lot of time, and my team spends a lot of time researching this, the updates, what's happening in USCIS, what's happening in the courts with these kinds of cases. So we are up to date on, every last minute change or addition to the requirements. As I often say in my consultations, my goal is to help you get your green card. And it's unwavering. That's what our whole team focuses on. Next. Okay, so this is, as you can see on the, those are my accomplishments, kind of in bullet points. I think though, for me, those are all, accomplishments, my background. But the reason that I practice this area of immigration law is personal. I come from a family of immigrants. I have lived this journey, how it's, unsettling, stressful, moving back and forth because of visa issues. So while I have a lot of experience in this area, the backstory is that, it's personal. So I understand your journey. So let's move forward. Okay, so just by way of background, for the EB-1A, you must demonstrate extraordinary ability in one of 5 areas. So the sciences, the arts, education, business, or athletics. I think it would, at this time, you can share your area of work, your industry. That would be helpful to know what industry fields that you work in. Okay, moving forward. So for the EB1A, if you have one highly exceptional, world-renowned achievement, as I've listed, like an Olympic medal, an Oscar, a Nobel Prize, then that would be sufficient to qualify for the EB1A. Most people don't have that. So if you don't have that world-renowned, over-the-top accomplishment, you have to meet 3 out of the following 10 criteria. The first is awards, receipt of nationally or internationally recognized awards for excellence. So I think what's really important is to actually, follow the words in the criteria. Those are actually regulations and legally required. So if you see the plain words, it says nationally recognized awards. So that means school awards generally would not count. It should be, an open, competitive process. It doesn't have to be national, but it should be open beyond your school or beyond your place of employment. Should be awarded to you based on excellence in your field, and there should be criteria that you must meet, a selective criteria to be granted this award. Okay, Second, publish material about you in professional or trade publications or other major media. So again, as it says in the criteria, the material must be about you. And I see this time and time again that applicants will submit, press or things like that, interviews with maybe the CEO of the company talking about what you've accomplished. That is great. And that helps your case, but it doesn't fulfill this criteria in particular, because it should be about you, and you can be talking about your accomplishments. And media includes podcasts, radio, video, and other online types of media. Okay, let's move forward to number 3. Okay, membership in associations, which demand outstanding achievements. So again, it's what qualifies as membership and what qualifies as associations in the field. An association is a membership kind of organization in your field. I see IEEE all the time if you're in tech. The membership should be based on selection criteria. So joining by making a payment would not count. And it should be an association where that is known in your field. And like I said here in this bullet, there are certain number of these criteria that we can be somewhat creative in how we define it. So association, this criteria is one of them, and how we define association. Next, number 4. Okay, asked to judge the work of others. And this is another one that has some flexibility and in what counts as judging. So of course, like peer reviews would count, serving on editorial boards, but what also could count is reviewing the work of your subordinates, if you have any. So again, this is another one where there is room to be creative in what counts as judging. Number 5. Okay, this one. I think this is probably one of the most important criteria if you're applying and you have original contributions, because most of the RFEs that I've seen over the years is on this particular criterion, and most of the RFEs can be avoided. So this criterion has 2 elements, and oftentimes, applicants don't clearly lay out the 2 elements so that the immigration officer can understand it. The first element is that you must have had a novel, unique breakthrough achievement in your field. And second is that you must show how this accomplishment or achievement has had some kind of influence in the field, some kind of impact, how it has advanced the field. Sometimes it's transformed the field. So that second part is really important, because they won't grant you this criterion if you don't show those 2 things. And the way you would show significance in the field or impact is, as I've shown, publications, proof that your work is being implemented. Maybe other people are using your work as a foundation. So yeah, I do want to emphasize the second element of that criterion that a lot of people miss. Okay, let's move on to the 6th criteria, authorship, publications. This is a very common, almost everyone's heard about this criterion. So, but not everyone needs it. So publications, if it's not something that's inherently part of your occupation, you wouldn't need it. And very, very often, I would say more than not, we file really successful applications without this criterion. So I get this question a lot. Do I need publications? I don't have publications. Or if you have publications, it's not cited enough. That it really depends what occupation and field you're in. Like I said, if you're in the tech field industry, it's not as common really to have publications. So that doesn't hurt your case in any way. So, but if you have publications, it matters where you publish them, what venue, what journal. Conference presentations could qualify as well under this criteria. So also, if blogs wouldn't count if it's something that hasn't undergone some kind of review process or selection process, that typically would not count as a publication. Okay. Number 7. Okay, so this is another one as well that has multiple elements to it. And when I do, consultations for applicants who've gotten RFEs and want, a second opinion, again, this is another one where I see that this criterion hasn't been laid out in the application in the most appropriate way. So of course, performance in a leading or critical role. So those are leading and critical are actually two different things. And I see them mushed together all the time. And immigration officers get confused. They don't understand it because you're, using the word leading and critical, like back and forth and kind of mushed together. So it should be separate. Like leading means oversight of people. Typically people like your managerial roles, your supervisory roles, and it kind of ties together with what I mentioned about judging, where your, performance reviews would count as judging. So that's what leading typically means. Critical is something separate. You could have a critical role in your organization, but not have any direct reports. You could just be functioning on your own, but really with something highly essential to the company. So there's, it's two separate things. And I would definitely, if you're applying, keep those separate, because I see the immigration officers always get very confused with this. And then finally, of course, the third part is that it must be in a distinguished organization. And I have, again, done consultations with highly, extraordinary individuals, and they want to work in a startup, or the startup is stealth. I would definitely talk to an immigration lawyer about whether that startup could qualify as a distinguished organization. Okay, number 8, commanding a high salary. So most people, no matter where you are in the country, can qualify, can meet this criterion, because you have to be strategic in choosing what is your occupation. Like, who are you comparing yourself to? So it's not really your title, it's your occupation. Like, for example, hospitality, or manager, engineering manager, so we choose the occupation that fits what you do, and we strategize about who we compare it to. It's all, and we provide that information to the government. So we have really, I would say, almost all of our petitions include salary as one of the criterion. And we do not just look at strict salary, so you don't have to just look at what's on your pay stub. You could include bonuses, shares, things like that in a company. Okay, number 9. Okay, so this one and number 10 are more geared toward artists, like designers, singers, things like actors, things like that. So this one is having your work displayed at exhibitions and showcases. And if you are someone that has exhibited your work, we actually have an architect who's done this, architectural designer, something similar, and his work has been actually displayed. So it should be just like anything else with the EB-1A, should be an exhibit that is highly prestigious, well known, and it should require selection criteria. Okay, number 10, the last one is your successes in the performing arts. So you would show if you perform publicly, ticket sales, news releases, press about your performances. So that was like a really brief run through of the criteria. As I mentioned, you must meet at least 3 to qualify. And what I'd like to mention also is quality matters So so if you're trying to meet the judging criteria or membership and you find an organization that, I don't know, there's probably some selection process, maybe in your field, but it's not that well known, not as, prestigious. I mean, it would be tough for the officer to approve that. And just from my experience, yeah, like quality matters. So if you're publishing in a journal, try and get it placed in a journal that is known in your field. Oftentimes, like I said, I just see people trying to work on their application and just, not understanding that not understanding that the immigration officer, even though you may objectively meet the criteria, just on a whole, when they decide whether to grant your application, they will look at how accomplished, at what level you met the criteria. Okay, so let's continue on. Yeah, if you have questions, if you are interested, confused about the criteria, whether you meet the criteria, please don't hesitate to contact us. Moving forward, I think we have, yeah, so this is another thing I often say to my clients. As I mentioned in the beginning, we cannot ever guarantee an outcome, but I can guarantee that me and my team will work tirelessly on your behalf, as we've done over 15 years now. And then I think we have our contact information next. No, we have testimonials. Okay, so these are from people who we've represented, and I would say we handle almost exclusively EB1A and IWs, and we take every single case very personally and customize, and it's just exciting personally for me to learn about the individual, their accomplishments, and when they win, when they get their EB1A. Finally, okay, here we go. Here is our contact information. The evaluation sessions are with me directly. And you can contact us at hello@alagarilaw.com, or you can call our office at that number, 650-383-4306. And then at this point, do we have time? Let's move forward and take Q&A. Okay, so okay, one question we got is, how many events should you judge? Would one prestigious judging suffice? So again, this is one of the criterion where you can really be creative in what counts as judging. If you have judging, I'm not if it's a prestigious event, that would absolutely count. And you should also, though, try and include another one. Whenever we do these applications, we always try and find, at least, for judging, at least another judging type of event. So like I said, if you have subordinates, you can include performance reviews, things like that. And very likely, if you work with an attorney or an office that will ask more questions, very likely something else you've done qualifies as judging. Next question, can you apply for the EB1A while on an F1 or H4? Okay, so I would say it really depends on what you've accomplished in it's not what type of visa you're on, but it doesn't matter what visa you're on. It's what you have accomplished. I mean, maybe being as a student, you might be too new to your field. H4, if you're working, that would, you'd be able to apply for the EB1A. If you're not working, it would be challenging because the EB1A requires, showing what you've accomplished in your field and that you're going to continue working in your field. So if you're not working, I'd probably wait. Third question, have you had candidates successfully file while being in the field of web technology and web development? I guess the short answer is probably it depends. What I didn't talk about this time in this webinar is defining your field. That's really critical. That's one of the first things I talk about in our evaluation sessions, is defining your field as narrowly as possible in a way the immigration officer can understand. Immigration officers are not tech people, not even close, actually. So we have to define it so that the field, so that it covers all of your accomplishments, but yet is easy for the officer to understand. So we never do broad, broad fields like web. We would never say he or she has extraordinary ability in web technology. It would be much more narrow than that. Okay, I have time for one more question. Okay, let me try and pick one of these. Patents. Okay, so this is a question that says, what criteria do approved patents fall under? Patents is proof of original contribution. So it would fall, at least in our office, we put, it shows that your innovation is novel. So we put it under original contributions. Typically that's where it would go. And then finally, last question, could you help folks that require preparation for creating an O1 and EB2 NIW simultaneously? Yes, of course. The O, many people talk about as it has very similar requirements to the EB1A. So if you have an O approval, there is actually court case law stating that the Immigration Service should respect the O approval, meaning you've already been evaluated by the Immigration Service, and if they've granted you the O, then that means the officer evaluating your EB1A really has to respect that, and if not, they need to really clearly explain why you don't qualify for the EB1A. So yeah, there is policy guidance, court guidance. We often cite all of that for our clients who have O1s. But I know you were talking about the O1 and EP2 NIW. Absolutely. Anyone with an O1 highly likely qualifies for the EP2 NIW as well as the EP1A. Thank you, everyone. That's all I have time for today. Please don't hesitate to contact my office. Please DM me if you find these webinars useful. I've been doing these monthly for a while now. I also do lives, and I look forward to seeing you next month at my next webinar. Thank you.